Developments from Hilo.
Aloha from the port of Hilo, where Hokulea and Hikianalia are still sitting dockside because their initial departure, which was set for Monday morning, has been delayed due to the weather conditions. Now, leaders of the crew said that the winds weren't exactly coming out of the direction that they needed for their launch, and that gives them an extra day here in Hilo. And take a look at the crew of Hikianalia. They are putting on their final preparations, putting that last minute extra day to good use here in Hilo. They are preparing to restart their Moana Nui Akea Pacific-wide voyage. The first leg takes them from Hilo all the way to Tahiti, and it's going to be so beautiful now that they are set to depart Hilo Tuesday morning. We spoke with Watch Captain Lehua Kamalu, who shared a little bit more about the crew and the tasks that still need to be done.
We definitely look for the right moment, and it's pretty critical in this voyage because the trip to Tahiti is uniquely an upwind journey, and you really need to make sure that you can get as east as possible so that on the other end of the equator, when we're headed down into Tahiti, you have enough space between you and the islands as the wind starts to veer you further and further to the west. So what we're looking for is a little bit more easterly, northeasterly winds. It got a little bit south, so we're just going to stand by a little bit longer and look forward to a departure tomorrow.
Again, this is the restart of the Moana Nui Akea voyage, which the crew cut short back in 2023 because of the Lahaina wildfires. Now, during that time of crisis, they knew that they needed to be back home in the islands with the people of Maui. On this first leg of the journey, there will be a smaller crew on board, just 7 people on Hokulea and 12 on Hikianalia. And their first stop is French Polynesia, with landfall expected in about 3 weeks. The canoes will make stops in Taputapuatea on Raiatea and Papeete in Tahiti. They will be there for about a month. And now the departure for both of these canoes is set for Tuesday, and the public is invited to come on down to Palekai here in Hilo to watch them as they depart. The protocol is expected to begin around 9 a.m. with the departure slated for 10. In Hilo, Hawaii, I'm Dylan Ancheta for Hawaii News Now.
Aloha on this Monday. We're expecting skies to be pretty cloudy today, and because there's a disturbance that's closing in, you can see a few more showers, especially this morning and again in the evening time, favoring windward sides, and those winds will be picking up speed later in the day, 15 to 20, and they'll run pretty swift for the next couple days, at least through Wednesday. And as far as the surf, it's on the way down for north and west shores. East shores will be rising because of those increasing trade winds.
Thank you, Guy. 4 men, 20 years old and younger, were arrested over the weekend for that fatal shooting in Makaha last week. The suspects are a pair of 20-year-olds, an 18-year-old, and a 17-year-old juvenile. They're accused of multiple crimes, including second-degree murder, and according to law enforcement sources, the victims were outside a Lahaina Street home at around 9 o'clock last Wednesday night when the suspects approached them on foot and opened fire. Now, a 19-year-old was killed and 4 others were wounded. Those sources also confirmed one of the suspects suffered a gunshot wound. It's believed he was hit by one of the other suspects. On the Big Island, an early morning fight in Kailua Kona Sunday led to gunfire and the arrest of a 19-year-old man. Police say they found a crowd of 20 people at the scene near Kealakehe High School. Witnesses told them the suspect fired 1 round into the air during a physical fight with multiple people. The suspect faces possible charges of first-degree reckless endangering and for unlawfully carrying a pistol. Police say no injuries resulted from the shooting. And in Waikiki, a 24-year-old service member was arrested early yesterday morning after she allegedly slapped a police officer and called him a racial slur. It reportedly happened while officers were attempting to break up a scuffle outside a nightclub on Kuhio Avenue near Nohonani Street. Records show the woman was charged with harassment on a police officer. Her bail was set at $2,000. To national news, the suspect who used a flamethrower against people who gathered in support of Israel is due in a courtroom in Boulder, Colorado this afternoon. Authorities say he injured 8 people, some with serious burns. Jason Allen has more from Boulder.
Authorities say the suspect in a violent attack on pro-Israel demonstrators used a makeshift flamethrower and yelled, "Free Palestine."
One person caught on fire from head to toe, and they were burning up. Their whole body was burning up, and a few others were also on fire.
45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Solomon is accused of hurling an incendiary device into the group that came together to raise awareness for the hostages in Gaza.
People were writhing on the ground. It was traumatic to watch, to be honest with you.
Solomon was arrested and faces a range of charges, including one for committing a federal hate crime.
It is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
Multiple sources tell CBS News Solomon is an Egyptian national who arrived in the U.S. in 2022 on a non-immigrant visa that later expired. Solomon reportedly told federal investigators he researched online how to make Molotov cocktails, bought the ingredients, and put them together. Authorities also say he stated he wanted to kill all Zionist people and wished they were all dead. Susan Rona of the Anti-Defamation League expressed concern about a spike in anti-Semitic violence and says the problem starts with words.
Let's have awareness of the language that's being used and normalized around us that ends up with violence. And let's stop that.
The 8 victims in the fire attack range in age from 52 to 88, and all are expected to recover. Jason Allen, CBS News, Boulder, Colorado.
President Trump is doubling down on tariffs, signaling the levies are here to stay. Now, his comments come as talks with China on trade have stalled, and his announcement of new tariffs on steel has the allies in the EU threatening countermeasures. Vaughn Hilliard has the latest from Washington, D.C.
With the country's economic future on the line, the Trump administration claiming it's still serious about implementing the president's tough tariff policies.
Tariffs are not going away.
After President Trump doubled the tariffs on foreign steel and aluminum to 50%.
The tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry in the United States.
That announcement caused the European Union and China to react. The EU says it's preparing countermeasures, and relations with China have been deteriorating in recent weeks, each accusing the other of breaking a May agreement, where both sides scaled back the initial large tariffs. China today saying the U.S. has unilaterally provoked economic friction.
I can confirm that the two leaders will likely talk this week.
The tariffs causing trouble for U.S. businesses, including Trump supporters.
Politically, I'm conservative. I did vote for President Trump. I don't agree with the way he's handled the tariffs. I feel like American business people are being punished.
Meanwhile, frustration is growing about how the president's economic policies could impact American households. Demonstrators marching from the Supreme Court to the Capitol to make their voices heard against the president's so-called Big Beautiful Bill, as the Senate takes it up this week.
This bill does not line up with what they promised they would do.
The mass legislative package includes major tax cuts and boosts money for defense, border security, and mass deportation efforts. Even some Republicans speaking out against the bill, though, with steep cuts to Medicaid and the food aid program, SNAP.
They should have been satisfied by just doing the tax part of this and not getting involved into the debt part of it.
Paul is not alone. Several Republicans have indicated they cannot vote for this bill in its current form. And if every Democrat, as expected, votes against it, Republicans can only afford to lose 3 of their own. The president has said he wants this bill on his desk by July 4th. Vaughn Hilliard, NBC News, Washington.
Opponents of the embattled 30-meter telescope are claiming victory, but they're not letting down their guard yet. This comes after the National Science Foundation released its proposed budget for the coming federal fiscal year, picking another telescope project over the TMT. In its message to Congress, the foundation said the telescope plan for the summit of Mauna Kea will not advance to the final design phase and will not receive additional commitment of funds from the NSF. Hawaii County Mayor Kimo Alameda says the current proposed telescope would serve as a bargaining chip to improve conditions at the summit.
My whole thing was like, hey, if you want to build a 30-meter telescope, then take down 5 or 6. right? Boom, right there. That makes the mountain better. Hey, if you want the 30-meter telescope, make sure the aquifer is protected. Make sure the endangered species and the cultural sites are protected and preserved.
We need to still be very vigilant about what comes next. This is a victory. We're going to take it and we're going to celebrate it. But we're not going to give up watching what's going to happen next.
Now, both Alameda and Sonota Pale were among the thousands who blocked construction 6 years ago. The budget proposal still has to be approved by Congress before the federal fiscal year starts on October 1st. Well, low levels of chemical substances has been discovered in the water system at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. The health department says 1-chlorophor-trifluoromethylbenzene was detected in a water sample collected from the Volcano Catchment Chlorinator, which serves the park and is owned by the U.S. Department of the Interior. Now, the chemical is an industrial solvent that is currently not regulated in drinking water. The sample was taken on April 8th, and DOH was notified by email on May 23rd. Officials say current measures show there is no acute health risk of levels detected, and the water system continues to meet all standards for safe drinking water. Today, health officials are urging travelers to take precautions with an ongoing measles outbreak now spreading to airplanes and major travel hubs. It comes as families nationwide are trying to understand the changing government recommendations about who should get a COVID vaccine. Liz Kruitz is in Los Angeles with more.
Well, hey there. Yeah, health officials are sounding the alarm about the spread of measles, especially as summer travel is ramping up. They're basically saying now if you have not been vaccinated for measles, you should reconsider or postpone your travel until you are vaccinated. That's because health officials are saying that airports, train stations, crowded areas like airplanes are areas where they're finding people transmitting the virus and contracting the virus. Here at LAX, the first confirmed case in LA of measles was somebody who traveled through this airport. In Colorado, there are now 3 confirmed cases, including one from a child under the age of 5 years old, of people who were on the same plane landing in Denver. There are now 1,100 confirmed cases of measles across 33 states. And again, there is concern as summer travel ramps up. And there's also, meanwhile, now questions about COVID vaccines. The Department of Health and Human Services director saying that the CDC is no longer going to recommend COVID vaccines for pregnant women and children, healthy children. But there is one caveat that the CDC says healthy children can get the vaccine based on shared decision-making, clinical decision-making, essentially if the doctors and parents agree to it. Back to you.
Ahead on This Is Now, the governor signs off on significant changes to Hawaii's window tinting rules. Plus, dozens are killed at humanitarian aid sites in Gaza as they were trying to gather food. The latest on the escalating tension in the region. Welcome back. The governor recently approved significant changes to Hawaii's window tinting law. Dylan Ancheta breaks us down the new rules.
Hawaii's tinting laws for vehicles were first enacted in 1983, and since then, they haven't really been touched. But there were inconsistencies between sedans, trucks, and SUVs, and the new law brings all of that on the same page. House Bill 226 is now officially Act 129 and was signed by Governor Green on Thursday, to the delight of car enthusiasts and tinting specialists.
With this new law, you could actually go a little darker in the rears. So the driver's and passenger windows would still have to be 35%. The rear windows, you can go with a 15 or 20%, which is the one right here. And then we can even go darker if you really want. We have a 5%, which is something like this.
Allowing sedans to have darker tint on rear windows puts them in alignment with guidelines of trucks and SUVs. Federal standards for front and passenger windows still apply. Representative Darius Keela chairs the House Transportation Committee. He hopes this change will give drivers both more protection from the sun's harsh rays and privacy.
And our tinting industry has been asking for uniform reform since the bill's enactment. I couldn't tell you why sedans were left out, but in 2025, it is hotter than ever, and it is no secret that cars are more prone to break-ins.
Allowing darker tint on vehicles was a change initially opposed by police departments and the Department of Transportation. However, amendments for safety were made and the agencies got on board. Safeguards include requiring drivers with tint to fully roll down their windows during a traffic stop, something most people already do. There are exceptions for physical disabilities and other limitations.
This bill is going to governor's desk because it literally is the product of collaboration where HPD can support it, DOT can support it, and the industry, which has never happened. DOT now gets to adopt uniform reform, and the industry is no longer confused on what they can and cannot do.
I think the biggest thing is everyone's worried about the safety. Everyone's worried about how safe is this. Like I said before, because of technology now, the cars drive itself almost. So I think 20 years ago, we weren't ready for it. But now, I think we are.
Drivers must also carry around documentation from their tinting installer that outlines the work that was done to ensure that it is within safety standards. And for those who install illegal tint, fines are increased. Dylan Ancheta, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Dylan. Inside Gaza, local officials say more than 50 people were killed yesterday while trying to collect food from a humanitarian aid site. Now, gunfire could be heard nearby, and CBS News cameras were at the hospital when the gunshot victims arrived. The Israeli group that runs the site claims it was unaware of the violence. Imtiaz Tayeb has the latest.
CBS News cameras were there when body after body arrived at Gaza's Nasser hospital. Doctors and nurses have called this a mass casualty event. Eyewitnesses said Israeli forces opened fire near a controversial aid distribution point in the southern city of Rafah. Dozens were killed and over 200 wounded, most suffering from gunshot injuries, according to health officials,
gunshot wounds to various parts,
including British doctor Victoria Rose.
It's very difficult to think that they were just looking for food and now they're injured and they're on our operating tables. It's a real crisis for us because we haven't had any medical aid since the 2nd of March and we are really on our knees.
This early morning cell phone video appears to show the moment gunfire first erupted. Not far is an aid distribution center run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. GHF, which is backed by the U.S. and Israel and did not exist a few months ago, is staffed with armed American contractors. Both GHF and the Israeli military have denied any shooting took place. But since the group started distributing food a week ago, there have been repeated scenes of violence near its delivery sites. And yet, another incident just this morning. At least 5 people were killed near a GHF distribution in Rafah, according to health officials. Among the dead was 10-year-old Hassam Waki's father. My dad went to get us food, she says, but he was shot and he died.
Now, we were able to make contact over the phone with the GHF spokesperson based in Washington, and he told us there were no incidents of gunfire within sight of or in the vicinity of the group's aid distribution hubs, despite video evidence and eyewitness testimony to the contrary, and insisted operations were going smoothly. MPS Time, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Let's take a look outside now with our tower cam. You can see some gray skies and some clouds out there as we look past the Aloha Tower. Guy's going to have your first alert forecast in 2 minutes.
First Alert Weather with Guy Huggy.
Aloha on this Monday. Skies will be cloudy today and for the next couple of days as well. There is a disturbance that's developing off to the west, and that'll likely enhance the showers as well as increase the cloud cover. So you can expect a cloudy day today. There will be scattered showers. We're not expecting a washout because the winds will be getting stronger. They're kind of slow right now, but as the day progresses, these winds will be stronger, and that'll limit the rainfall buildup, right? So even though there will be scattered showers, the rain will be moving out just as quickly as it moves in. So flooding, not really an issue, but it will be a little dingy at times with those cloudy skies. At least we got those breezy winds to count on. That means air quality should be good with comfortable humidity levels. Now, as far as the surf, that country swell that came up over the weekend is on the way down. There's still some fun-sized waves, but it's definitely dropping. South shores will be fun size, but we're expecting a significant south swell coming in on Friday, so heads up on that. And east swells, east sides will be rising because of the increasing trade winds. So again, breezy winds pick up from today all the way through Wednesday, dropping off on Thursday. We're expecting fairly cloudy skies through Wednesday as well, and there will be the occasional passing shower, especially today. Now tomorrow the winds are, the rainfall expected to back off and maybe bump up again on Thursday.
Thanks, Guy. Still to come, do you have a photogenic pet? How they could be featured in a new calendar in 2 minutes. News now. A very special celebration was held over the weekend for Kauai's newest centenarian. Happy 100th birthday to Emilia Melchor. Families and friends celebrated her incredible milestone at Kauai Poke in Poipu. Born in Lauag, Ilocos Norte in the Philippines, Melchor moved to Koloa on the Garden Isle in 1960. Now, she worked at Suioka's store in Koloa town for more than 25 years, and to this day, her hobbies are cooking and gardening. Melchor has 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Well, does your pet have what it takes to be a calendar model? The Hawaiian Humane Society is looking for pets to feature in its annual Pets in Paradise calendar. All you have to do is snap a feature-worthy pic of your furry friend and send it to the Humane Society. The contest is open this entire month to any animals, not just dogs and cats. Now, the last day to enter is June 30th, and you'll want to submit your picture fast so people can cast their votes. Submissions with the most votes will be featured in the 2026 calendar. Just head to hawaiianhumane.org for more info on how to enter. Thanks for watching. This is Now. More news first at 4 right here on KHNL.